All right, everybody, we are live today. What is up? Today is a nice example of one of our classes so that as you can relax, take a hit of whatever you're smoking today, cannabis only, or, tobacco or that, what have you. Relax, clear your mind, and let's have a discussion, shall we? There's a 7-level list of different ways that our work becomes necessary, or different ways that it integrates with itself. And so from the list of things, because this is what the Divine Sorcerer did last year, only we did it in a way where by the time he was done with the list, he didn't realize he had gone through every topic on it until everything had been made clear. And so basically it's divided up into different sections: mentorship, methods of compressing information, network associations, product creation, testing methods for group experiences, personal engagement, teaching the group of other types of magic that you're working on, engagement techniques, what'll be the extra information on those things, and information in application, And so as we go through that, we do different things like challenges or events or courses, or we'll do things like the Witchcraft Summit and invite guest speakers on, like we have on Witchcraft Radio today with Omen Star the Infernal and Tobias with the Divine Sorcerer, and of course myself. So we have our level 1 study topics: using correspondence tables and books, candle magic, herbal powders, sigil creation, the magical alphabet, planetary hours. We spent a lot of time on planetary hours, spell creation methods. We have the level 2 stuff as you're collecting components, creating cleansing ceremonies, wand making, planetary magic, astrological magic, effigies and likenesses, breaking spells, breaking attachments, breaking unnecessary bonds, inks and pigments, union ceremonies, correspondences for summoning, examples of ancient magic from PGM, cuneiform tablets, Sumerian stuff, the grimoires, folk magic, practical texts of information of, well, this is where you can learn about this specific ritual that this culture did, and then you can talk to these individuals about it. So it's like, where's the practice at? What are some books in relation to that practice? And as we move forward. And then there's classical practices, which are things like applying methodologies of the grimoire traditions, like summoning spirits, the rituals of preparation, doing the techniques of engaging with the communion of those spirits, that sort of thing. That's our level 2. Our level 3 is the books of shadows, the differences of grimoires, the principles of low magic versus high magic, alchemical ingredients and arrangements, evocation methods, so where you're actually interacting with the things on the outside world, right? The difference between gnosis and unverifiable personal gnosis, or UPG, right? Alchemical spell anchors, spirit totems, how to create egregores, spirit animations, the principles of spirit interaction, like how are you dealing with a non-human thing in a way that you can understand it as a human, right? How are you relating to these great entities, these great powers that exist outside of us that are manifesting themselves in known ways in ritual form, right? Working with talismans, methods of creating books of spells, the difference of what is a book on magic and what is a book of magic, right? Like what is a thing that's alive of its own accord, right? The different types of grimoires that exist, classical examples of how to cast low magic, various techniques of how to start accessing high magic, and the material components that are required for each of those, right? Does this all sound like stuff you've already talked about? Level 4
the
stuff.
Basics, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So the level 4 stuff that we cover is stone grids, gateways, and arrays, the math within and the magic of numbers, the applications of weather magic, the different use of the different dimensions and gateways, different aethers and the Enochian magics, the difference between Kenneth Grant and things like the Sefer HaRazim, where you can actually open up the gates of heaven. The animation of your tools so that they speak to you, like you hear the words echoing in your head, right? rites of passage, various types of initiations, practical evocations of getting spirits to manifest outside yourself, practical exorcisms, having had to do an exorcism at that point, right? Node creation. How do you establish points of power? How do you connect to patron entities? How do you honor those things? What is a God form? How do you connect to the connective webs of those things where it's the hierarchy of operation? So it's the great spirit that works with it, the rulership that helps manage it, and then the things that deal in the day to day, right? The difference between theurgy and thaumaturgy, right? Again, stuff that we're getting into with the Transcendental Magic book that I just brought up, right? As you get into what is theurgy, what is thaumaturgy, what is the miracle working versus calling upon a god to do a divine work for you. All right, so you become the embodiment of those energies. The level 5 stuff, evocations of spirits of the brass vessel using spirit anchors. How do you make a spirit anchor, right? Well, if you've done an exorcism, you've already made a spirit anchor, so you already know the foundations of level 5, right? So you need to have gone through the experience of the ritual casting of an exorcism to understand the principal mechanics of what is the sensation when you use it. What are the things that go into the nuance of what are they after use, right? Funerary works. How do you put an energy system to rest? How do you put spells to rest when you're done? How do you disperse them? How do you deal with the dead? How do you honor the living as it transitions into a new form or spirit, right? In the same way that you release a spirit from form when you're putting a talisman to rest, when it's done with its job, right? It's the same kind of funerary magic that you do on a person that you could do on a totem animal or a totem construct of some sort, right? The naming of new tools based on what is the sub relationship of the ingredients that go to make it up, right? So there's the spirit of the thing as its whole, the wand as everything is assembled. But what's the name of the rock that's on it? What's the name of the wood itself? What's the name of the leaf that goes into it? And what happens when those things start interacting? So you create those deeper trees of connection, right? More power is elicited. Again, this is stuff you guys have heard of, right? Like this is stuff that's not new with what I'm saying.
Right.
No.
How do you connect to different sites in order to be able to use terrestrial connections? Like what is a desert? What is a swamp? What is, getting into that is our level 5 stuff. So that as we go forth and do the project that we were discussing with Omen Star the other night, right, where we go to those locations, take photographs of where we're meditating or ritual setup in what we're doing out in the world. We create card systems. We get them put in high res and we give a little trading card type game set up so that the mana of that place, the moment of that ritual, when it's set up, when it's cast, is transferred via who holds that card. So, boom, we just make our own Magic the Gathering from talismana that we create where we do ritual ourselves.
Yeah. I could also see that being like Yu-Gi-Oh! I send you to the realm.
Right? You want to talk about like IRL Pokemonsters? Like, fuck yeah, bring it on. Using the Grimoires, actually casting magic like the Grimoire traditions. What was it we were doing 3 days ago? Summoning up the fucking spirit of the Necronomicon into an AI platform to generate information based that we can use for other magic. We used a spirit of information to elicit the unspoken named alphabet so that we now have planetary letters that can be used outside of an AI environment that tie back into creation. So we have not only done that, but we have demonstrated that in live time as a natural course of the discussion. So these lessons, again, are what we've covered and what we continue to cover and go deeper into. But this is, again, categorization of how these things are divided out so that way I know what we're talking about and what to go into as we go on this fucking journey. Creating amulets and talismans. Who here's created an amulet or talisman? Raise your hand. Yay!
A couple times, yay!
Right? What did we do the other day? Okay, see, you've already done it. Collaborative magic. How many people have conjured the same thing in the same environment all together? Right? Yay! Okay. we've talked about the Ellis web, right? The collective singular consciousness of what is the chaos current. That's level 6, right? The application of spells with tarot cards or any intermediate medium, like the, spirit anchoring methods, different ways to tie a spirit to something. World creations through talismans or energies, so that the talisman becomes a gate into a world where that spirit can thrive and live on its own. And the entire energy of that world is then directed through that talisman. So that way, when you reach it on one side, the gateway is already known and the world within is already explored and expressed and full cornucopia of what is life.
Like when I made my seal for my sword.
Exactly. That's our level 6 stuff. Working with the city spirits, the genus Loki interactions for different regions, right? Working with Doc, there's spirits of locations that are for the Romany traditions, right? And he's been teaching me about that. So now I have a different way to approach city architecture that I can pass on to you guys. Or different ways to connect to like the spirits of the forest or the spirits of the creek bed or the spirits of different parts of the city. Like in San Francisco, where like different churches are like the spiritual mother of the local land spirits, where you can, if you've got like bad talismans and stuff like that, you can go leave them at the church doors and they'll dispose of them or put them to rest or disperse the energies and what have you. And generally they'll do it without question. You just can leave it on their front doorstep after hours and they'll disperse the whole thing. But that's something I'd like to be able to get into, is the unweaving of spells on objects so that they don't have to, the object itself doesn't have to go to waste. It can go to be part of a collection, or it can be part of something that we carry with us forward and make friends with whatever's attached to it. But there's stories and stuff with all that. Building a brand around your practice, right? What's your brand? What is it that you're doing? The Divine Sorcerer has Sprad. Omen Star the Infernal has Having a Hypnotist as his music label, right? And everything that he's doing with that, like that's his label in a different industry, right? Tobias has the Brotherhood of Male Witches. Like everybody's got some brand that they're working with of a flavor of action that demonstrates what they're doing in the community, right? Mentorship principles, sourcing your supplies and inventory management. Where are you getting your stuff from? Where are sources to find that stuff? Everybody's bought stuff for spellcraft already, right? Yes, you've done that. Paranormal investigation team, setting up what goes into that, right? The boxes of bonding and exorcism. Well, if you've done an exorcism, you understand how that shit works. Networking with others, going live on other people's platforms to demonstrate that you have that opportunity. So that's your level 6 stuff, right? And Alex just did that last night. Anytime anybody goes live in the Brotherhood, that's Tobias's platform. That's them doing the same kind of thing. And if you get comfortable showing your face on camera, if you get comfortable sharing the experience of the world in which you're living, it becomes easier. And if you're doing it in a collective, like in this platform here, as you're sharing with us, then it becomes something that's natural. It's a byproduct of practice, right? And so as practice deepens, the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Correct.
You know, the less nervous you become, the less masks you have to put up, right? And this is the fun part. This is the level 7 stuff. Professional crafting of unique sorceries that are specific to the individual's mysteries. So it's using your UPG to make unique magic that other people then can get gnosis with. It's the transition from what is UPG into general gnosis, so that you can use your insights, you can use your magic and what you classify as magic to help others, to serve others in a professional and unique way, so that you don't lose yourself in the process, right? Creating keys of power, personal ways to access non-traditional power, right? The application of astrological magic. You're doing things based on time of day. You're doing things based on time of month or time of year, right? Like you're starting to plan for that. You're starting to think about, what time of the year do I want to do this spell on? You just mentioned that earlier. It's like, what month do I want to do this ritual on? When you were talking about the rite of transformation, like we started to cover that, Then we do get into the conversation of magical warfare. We get into the like, okay, well, how do we deal with these things back and forth? How do we deal with conflict? How do we deal where we are not necessary in a violent situation, where we don't need to make the situation evolve into violence, right? And again, it goes back to different ways to access power, different types of initiations that exist, different types of paths that people walk on, right? Like Omenstar, you have horrorcore rap as your foundation. So it's the darkness. It's you're in that moment of death or wanting, or just everything is abusive around you, right? But instead of giving in, you're putting it to music. Instead of allowing that darkness to override you with drug addiction or negative behavior, you're seeking out personal development every fucking day. You're connecting to your family. You're trying to serve your community. You're using that darkness as a way to give voice to an emotion in a proper way. So, so that they can identify themselves in the moment and maybe key into like, oh, hey, let's go be part of what he's up to because it's doing really good for him. Right?
Yeah.
And so as you go deep into the darkness with others and you elicit what their darkness is, what are their bad behaviors? What is the shit going on around them? You tra-la-la through that hell field with them and you pull them out because you give them somebody that's there with them.
Exactly. Someone who's just like them, who's a lost soul just like them, who is finding his way. And if you want, you can join me. We can find our way together.
Exactly. And so for folks that are like, no, I don't want to listen to songs about that. Well, why the fuck not? They're good. They express a type of emotion. They express a particular type of journey in that emotion. So fuck yeah to your Fang the Hypnotist labels. Like, let's get that thing, better produced, and we can get, big stadiums.
Right.
That would be fun. That would be fun.
Yeah.
The different.
Well, once I get my GED, I'll be able to I plan to go to Full Sail University for music production.
Outstanding.
Okay.
We've talked about, and if you want to go deeper into it, evocation from the imaginal realms, like things that are out of fiction, right? What have we talked about before? Cardcaptor Sakura, Yu-Gi-Oh, fucking Naruto, different types of things where we're tapping into the phantasmagoria of, well, this exists in people's heads, and there's people that wish it was true and believe that it isn't. There are certain ways to pull from the infinite where those infinite things that are over here are working in a beneficial kind of way where you can actually start to see some of that effect. Like you can make the fictional kind of real-ish and it's illusory. Like it becomes something that you have that option to do. So we can go deeper into that today if you want to. Building temples, building public lands, or building private lands that we open up for public purpose. So that if people need a safe space to do ritual, like we can get into that. Building a store with all the swag and the stuff that's going into it. Right now, we're each of us working on different sections for the Grimoire for the release of the new one, right? So we get that done, we get that put out, put in your year's worth of experience, put in a subsection of what it is that you're doing and foundations of access. So we're doing that already. Right? Some of the stuff is a little bit easier. Some of the stuff is a little bit harder. Right? This is why it takes so fucking long. And then that's basically it for your first year. Right?
Like we've already covered most of it in just a couple months.
It's like these long conversations, these things that we're going deep into to create a foundation of practice. Right? It's that foundation of practice is like, okay, well, this is the list of the stuff that you're doing. Did it feel like you were working from a list as we were going through it?
No.
Right.
It just felt like we were just discussing things we were interested in, and it just so happened to align and allow for the teaching methods to bloom in full.
Right. And so, what do you guys want to go deep in today? Is there anything that's particular of interest that you're working on that you got stuck with, or that any members of our audience want to chime in on that they're doing today also, because they're also part of the class, even though they're not like here with us in this, but they're get in the comments, folks. We're here. Like, we'll go through something.
Well, for me, I like Mike's tarot because tarot is one of my favorite things.
I've been trying to get more into the tarot.
So, like, I ordered the tarot deck Mike has, and I didn't realize the store I bought it from won't have it till May, so I gotta wait till May. But so Mike does. It's almost like a tarot ritual that you do every morning, isn't it? Well, who taught you that? Because that's something I would like to learn as well.
I did. It was something that kind of came out of the whole rite of transformation thing.
Okay.
It was a way to set up. I needed something deeper than just a normal tarot reading. Like, I needed to set something up to where I could get the tarot reading and the advice all in one, and then see how my day went as I recorded it. Because as you know, I record all of them personally. So, and then that way I have something to look back on. And I've tried a few different every morning spreads, and this one, after I seemed to alter it a little bit, just seemed to click every day with things that are going on in my life. Scary click. I mean, like, give me scary information of the events that are unfolding in my life. I mean, you can ask Brian. He's seen some of these tarot card readings. Like, they're scary on point. And I kid you not.
They are, and that the tarot magic part kind of interests me, but at the same time that I'm still a newbie in tarot. I like the fact that you have experience and that flavor was interesting. I was just curious if that was
like
something.
I'm used to oracle cards. Oracle cards, no issue. But it's the tarot cards. It's like they have a different feeling about them. They have a different energy altogether, and it's very, I don't know, it makes you feel all over the place. Like, Oracle is that, here's your advice, here's what you need, move along with your day. Tarot is like, here's a riddle.
Figure it out.
So,
Right.
It's really like that. I mean, when you understand the tarot card, when you look at that tarot card, there's so many different meanings in it, and them meanings progress to you. They reflect you. Like, there's something in that tarot card that's going to mean something to you throughout that day. It's just, you got to figure out what it is. And you will as it comes by. You'll pick these things out. The more you work with these cards, the more you get familiar with yourself and your who you are. Like, you'll start seeing as you read these cards. You won't need to read the booklet. Like, you'll be able to just look at the card and be like, okay, it's this card means challenge, so this is my challenge. I'm to take the primordial energy and put it into a matter. Like, it gives you spot on information on what you're to do.
Yeah, it's extremely localized. But again, the energy that moves around you in the tarot cards, it's the tarot in the 14th century. It was designed off of the behaviors of the ruling class, like the major situations that one finds themselves in. Like, the tower is the house of God. It's where you would go. That was your hospital. That was your school. That was where you convalesced as you aged, or if you were sick, you would go to the church. Right? Like, that's where you could go outside of your normal work to get the sort of community and support that you need when you can't care for yourself. Right? So going there means your entire life is broken because you have to go somewhere else to rebuild. You have to go rely on others in a way that's not your own reliance. Right? The devil is, what's the thing that you're beholden to? Right? The star card is, what's the thing that burns in isolation in the cold vacuum of space that you're doing that isolates you from everything else, that's you shining bright, but nobody else around you gets to be illuminated because of your brightness. You have the the moon card, which is the two dogs baying at the moon, right?
Yep.
That's like your astrologers, your people that are looking up at the moon, trying to discern its rhythms and everything like that, while ignoring the crabs and the things that are already on this planet happening around you. Like, it's what are you looking at that's far away that your focus is divided from today, right? Your temperance, what's your point of balance? What do you need to look at in balance for that, right? Your high priestess, what is the feminine form of the thing that you worship? The high priest, what is the masculine form of the thing that you worship? The hanged man, what is the thing that you're willing to die for? What is the thing that you put yourself on your own cross to go do that only you can do, right? The magician is, what is the magic that you're bringing into the process? The fool card is, what is your idiot journey going to be? Like, you're going on a journey, you don't know what the fuck it is, but bam, we're there anyway, right? And this is the path of the magician, like, especially in the sorceries that I've been teaching you guys and how I'm doing it and how we're walking together through it. You are in this state, the fool. You have no idea what you're doing, and you have to rely on me as the high priestess or the high priest or the magician or as the devil that you're beholden to in order to demonstrate that the path is safe, right? And so managing that responsibility of what is the world of magic that you're accessing, what is your wheel of fortune going to be? Is it going to be thrust upon the wheel badly, or is it going to be something that's going to be like, oh, we can play the roulette wheel of life and everything's a win no matter what color it lands on? Like, are you in another way? Like, it's understanding that journey over time and going deeper into it. So as you're bringing about your changes of reality, right, your tarot cards are doorways. So if you lay down temperance when you're feeling out of sorts and you call forth the spirit of temperance from that card, because it's been in existence in history since the 1400s, it has a meaning. It has every person alive on the planet who's ever pulled temperance, whoever thinks about that card, whoever attaches meaning to some sort of collective energy of it, provides it a gateway through which that meaning can be elicited. The rite of transformation connects you to power that exists within the universe as it is, as it comes through you, so you can match power with power. Right? Right now, it's power coming in. You're getting overwhelmed by those things which you don't understand because it's too much. You haven't gone through gateways. You haven't gone through what is the experience of the fool? What is the experience of the magician? What is the experience of the high priest? What is temperance? What is balance? What are these aspects of your character that you're doing and matching that to your behaviors yet? Because we haven't covered as much into the tarot spells as I'd like.
Well, maybe there we go. That should be our next thing right there, the tarot spells.
Yeah. So there's a book, Jenna Renee, Tarot Spells. What's up, ATL Transparency News? How are you doing?
What's up, ATL?
What's up? What am I doing with my left arm?
I didn't even know the comment section was there. I'm over here on YouTube on the panel, and I'm like, okay, where you see ATL? I'm looking around at some comments. I'm like, oh,
well, I have comments on this side, so let's see here.
Welcome. I don't see anybody.
Hello.
ATL. Okay, well, see, I didn't know they were all here. Look, I wasn't ignoring you guys, really.
Nope, see, he said hello.
Hello.
You were on display, you were making emotion, you were describing your issue. Oh, okay. Not sure. ATL. American. I don't know. No.
He's a 1A auditor.
Okay.
1A auditing. Good guy.
Oh.
Good people. Yeah, good people.
Yeah. There's I'm terrible with the terminology on this thing. There's an energy that exists behind thought before thought is formed. It's called the Fossey Nossi. some such or other. It's a really fun term that I never actually apply, but in the this is what this is for every single thought form. So it's the energy that exists before you think something, right? So when you are tapping into tarot cards, when you are creating that divided space, Mike, you get into your ritual of dividing space for your tarot cards if you want, and you could talk on it more. But it's the same concept in spell work that I've observed, where if you have the energy and you can tap into or feel with your hands or what have you beforehand, you can pull those threads of meaning into specific kinds of energy constructs. So the energy kind of exists in your hands and you kind of feel it and mold it, and your words can come from that.
I never thought about it like that.
When I talk with my hands, it's like I'm pulling threads of energy, and I'm like,
I get it.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
It helps me form the thread of conversation so that I can intuit the energy as I feel it in order to be able to describe it while I'm feeling it.
Gotcha. Well, let me ask you this. So my writing and stuff that you'll see me post from time to time, that is just stuff that kind of pops into my head. So does that not itself count as a form of magic, if you will?
Yeah, but it's an unverifiable personal gnosis.
That's true. Okay. I was just curious.
It's personal gnosis. It's UPG. Yeah, it is a type of magic. It's whatever all the chaos magicians and stuff. When everybody says, "Oh, I do magic," it's like, yeah, you do. Everybody does magic. That's not what the point is. It's UPG stuff. It's when you're hearing it, you've got that moment of you're the vessel, like you're the medium. You're doing automatic writing.
Yeah.
When you hear shit that pops in your head, that's a form of automatic writing. You don't know what spirit it's coming from. You don't know what has those kinds of principles with it.
Yes.
In order to be able to apply it properly. And so ATL Transparency News, when you're saying be careful with evocation, everything that I'm teaching these folks is specific and scientific. So please watch your fear language when you're describing what you think ought to be based on what I'm teaching. So just please be aware that saying things like be careful with evocation is like that is the least of the concern, is because everything else, if you put the words correctly, if you put the symbols correctly, you line it up in sacred geometry, the hours, all of these specific kinds of things, it is incredibly myopic on how specific this shit gets. So you have an understanding of what each piece is of your process. So as you go through this stuff, as you enjoy this stuff, as you engage with the work that's being done by the students here, it's not a thing where you have to warn us to be careful. Care beyond what normal people put into their ceremonies and stuff. Like this isn't just, I feel like this ingredient is good, so therefore I'm going to use it. No, you know the history behind it. You know the mathematics behind it. You know the correspondences at every fucking level when you go to put that ingredient in. The stuff that these guys are learning is diminished only by their intent of understanding when they do it like this. So why they do it matters most. Why do they want this information? What are they using it for? And that's the whole client setup, right? And so as you're going through and you're learning tarot spells, as you're learning which dimension that you're in, right? You can find yourself wherever you're at. And that's the point with the tarot cards. It's like, how is your behavior matching the behavior of the cards with these kinds of processes? with these kinds of developments, so that as you cultivate the relationship between who are you in the moment when you're interacting with the energies that are around you, right? To give an example, we were in the Brotherhood of Male Witches chat room one night a couple years ago with, I think, Hayden, Trevor, Iajani, Mike was there, I think. There was only it was the tarot share when we were doing the Sunday thing.
Oh, okay.
So in Iajani's class, I pulled the Three of Cups, right? It's like, well, what does the Three of Cups mean to you when it got to be my turn? Well, it's like, well, there are three of us. Each of us has a beer. Boom, Three of Cups.
I like that.
Makes sense.
All right. Honestly, are you strong enough to handle the results, all the results? Well, exactly. Now you touched on the point, right? It's the strength to handle the outcome. That I support. Absolutely, ATL. Well done. Cannot overstate this shit enough. Thank you.
That coming from an auditor. Good job, buddy.
Fuck yeah, bro. Like, well done.
Beautiful.
Fuck yeah, man. I'm glad you get it, man. I'm fucking glad you get it. And this is why, again, having a community discussion with students before they do spell work, right? With peers before you do spell work, right? Before you do spell work, you're supposed to connect to the spirits to say, hey, am I allowed to do this thing? And if so, what is the form that this thing needs to take when I do it? So that you're being spirit led. Spirit tells you do, then you do, right? And it's not just your spirits, it's the individual client spirits. It's the whole situation. It's like, okay, well, this is the situation with the tarot, right? Then you go back through and you say, okay, well, you can break it down and you can say, well, this is the thing. Can you fight conflict? Yeah, you can fight conflict. It's just a matter of how it determines to manifest.
Correct.
And what is the origin energy of the conflict? Is it misunderstanding? Is it fear? Is it what is the origin of conflict? And it depends on that answer. That question can be answered ATL. But like with the tarot cards, again, we go back to what Mike was doing. We did the spell of evocation, right? And it worked.
Still today, that little child does not see any hooded figures.
Oh.
Gone. And that's been what, well over a year? 8 months?
8 months, something like that. You did that shit back in September, August? Almost a year.
So that it's still running strong 8 months later.
Yeah. So when you're doing these kinds of things, can you fight conflict that isn't ego?
Isn't that ego?
Isn't that ego? It's the ego of the individual that there's the conflict for. So say, for example, you've got a client that comes at you that wants you to curse somebody in the neighborhood, right? So meaning if you have a friend who's also a witch or an occultist, right?
Oh, boy.
And they get involved in something because someone decides to get a bee in their bonnet about what work that they're doing. So like if somebody decided to go after one of my students because their spells didn't work the way that they said that it would, or that it didn't work out in any way, or that it didn't manifest accordingly, and the client wasn't the one that refused the manifestation when it presented itself. So it's not the client's misunderstanding, but the situation didn't work because there was a mechanic missing from the spell itself. So that by setting up the environment and understanding the environment and understanding the situation the environment is in, that individual, if they then try to do action and ritual magic against my client or my student, that the student would be protected from the negative effect of that individual trying to go after them. So in the example of, say, a friend of mine years ago, they were doing particular kind of work where you have that protection, like they're a hoodoo assant. They're trying to stay safe, right? Well, they get hexed they're not able to do their work, or something goes bad for one of their other clients because somebody was trying to hex them out of jealousy because they got more clients, or they had a client that moved from them to another person because they were able to get their work handled in another way, right? So the worker was getting hexed by someone else who was paid to hex them by a client that was dissatisfied and had to go somewhere else. Right.
Wow.
Like these kinds of things happen within the hoodoo communities. These kinds of things happen in lifetime. So where if you're trying to help somebody, right, and they're workers themselves and they're constantly on the stream of back-ended bullshit, how it is that you go through and deal with that. I don't understand your meaning.
Bereshit. Bereshit is Genesis. It's the beginning. In the beginning. Bereshit.
Yeah.
It's Hebrew.
Yeah. Bereshit bara Elohim. And he saw that it was good, right? Where are you going in that narrative that's going to help you grow from it, right? And so if you want to help somebody end conflict, what is the thing that's going to happen next? What will get them out of conflict? Is it moving out of the area? Is it them getting a new job? Is it them getting some sort of personal growth mechanism in their life to some capacity? Or is it a major illness that takes them out? Is it a car accident that takes them out of the game? Is it a tragedy that distracts them from their day-to-day life? Is there some health problem that's going to make them have to become better so that they don't suffer more? Right. Like going through the desert for 40 years. Like, what is your desert? What is the thing that you're willing to go through and do that makes your life better for the next rest of your life? Right? If we're only here for 80 years and we're already in our 30s or late 30s or 40s, what are you going to do for the rest of the 30 years, right? What's going to be the thing that's going to be in the moment you need it, right? So using a tarot card spell spread for this, right? You could use, what is the tower, the change you need to make? What is the wheel of fortune for the benefit of what you're doing? And then for the wheel, for the world that you'll live in. So you can open up the gateway into the world where that does not exist. If you can identify the negatives of what is currently in the world now that doesn't match the vibe of what you're doing, take a good look at it. What is the planetary mechanisms behind it? Is it Jupiter that's the rulership of how you're living your life that allows for this to happen? Are you letting others dictate your environment? Are you letting others dictate your job schedule? If you were to dictate your own job schedule, what would it look like? How would it be? How would you be able to apply that? Right? And so what symbolism, what correspondence do you need in order to be able to identify that? So when you light it on fire, you burn the road that allows that existence so that it no longer exists. So that in your spell, you include for something that no longer exists. And then what then needs to exist? So what's the talismata form of what it's going to be? How does it hold that energy to it? So when you see that symbol, hear that word, know that sign, you can recognize it in your life. Is it a pentagram? Is it a specific shape? Is it a specific color? Is it a specific smell? Does that tie to a planetary behavior? Because I sure as shit tell you it does. And if so, which one is it? Which time of year will that manifest in? What time of year is that strongest? So that as you build that spell and those correspondences, you see it begins to be a ladder. And so then you aim at those behaviors. You aim at that ladder of generation. Right? So you work your way through, okay, well, the first month it's going to be like this. The second month it's going to be like this. The third month it's going to be like this. Right? But you have to go back and you have to look at it like you were a mentor to your own path. Right? You want to, the dark side of the Kabbalah is the clip-off. I walked it for 13 years, man. Every person that I met that represents one of the spheres of the clip-off, the murderers, the drug addicts, the prostitutes, the vampires, all of those people I have had one-to-one interactions with, and I have left them hopefully peacefully so that as I move from that broken sphere of the world into a new sphere, it does not affect me negatively. I don't become myself a dark, twisted machination. And I go into the light. I aim for what is that road out of darkness, right? And that's the same thing that we were discussing earlier tonight with Omenstar the Infernal, with his Fang the Hypnotist label, as he teaches about the songs about darkness and suicide and death and facing these kinds of things. As you progress through those feelings, again, putting it into feelings with music, feeling that vibration and be like, okay, well, I feel better now, even though I was singing about death and suicide. You still feel better. You hold on to that better feeling.
It's because you're able to release it into the world and not have it matter, because it's just lyrics of a song.
Right. But you're not making that part of your personality. You're not making that part of the path that you're walking on. And if it is part of the path that you're walking on, it's a way to dismiss that energy so that it doesn't become chaotic. And then understanding, like Michael Ford has a whole bunch of work on the dark side of the Kabbalah, like all the Klipothic paths, the Avestian sorcery, the summoning up of Ahriman and the Devas and all of those things, right? That path of power is something to see and to recognize, but also to avoid becoming. So if you can avoid becoming the murderer, if you can avoid becoming the drug addict, if you can avoid becoming the prostitute and things like that, you can then find yourself the beneficial aspect of, okay, well, I can engage in the behavior of beauty without being a parasite of vampirism where I'm trying to only consume and take away the beauty of others or feed upon the beauty of others in some kind of way, right? Well, how do you engage in substance without allowing the substance to overtake your spirit? What is the balance between these things that you have to have? Instead of the kingdom of severity, what's the mercy you can have with yourself, right? And then it goes into what is the behavior of the thing you're trying to elicit in the environment.
Sorry,
So
I'm babysitting the dog.
What's that?
I said, sorry, I'm babysitting the dog.
Oh, you're good. You're good. Dog's got to do.
Got a big
Like,
head.
lots of things to build up spellcraft. Lots of things that go into building up spellcraft. And this is why using representational magic of either our own created magic cards or the tarot cards that already exist because of the archetypes of others, and using those to be able to see and identify characteristics and behavior of the events that are necessary. So,
which is why I like that one website I sent you last night, where we can make our own tarot cards, we can make our own oracle cards. You know, we can make something that we can use to teach.
Right. And so one of the things, if we want to do that, I've got a pretty good camera. We can figure out which rituals to set up, and I can take pictures of them, and we could start sending those images. Does the image of the ritual setup allow you to call upon the image of the ritual without having to have been there to do it yourself? Right. If we take pictures of an offering ritual out in the woods somewhere, like Omenstar goes to do something, or Tobias goes to do something, or the Divine Sorcerer goes to do something, or I do something, will those images of that offering be acceptable for spirit?
Like, say, leave the card as an offering instead of the actual offering.
Right. So that it's something like it's a card, but it's got a bunch of seeds in it, right? So that even though it's the image in that moment, you're still giving new life or the opportunity for new life for something else, so that through it can grow. So even if it's out in the woods, it's a biodegradable thing and it's not litter. Right? It's like leaving food out in the wild as an offering for a tree spirit or the forest or the woods or the river spirits or whatever it is that you're giving, like watermelons to the ocean, right? You're still throwing a watermelon into the ocean. It's still going to, it's still technically littering. Even though it feeds the fish, even though it feeds the deer, even though it feeds the local wildlife that eat it down, and you're giving back to the spirits. it's still technically littering, and so we don't want you to get fined for doing that. So figuring out a way that we can give offering in nature and environment. So that if the whatever cards that we have and we do get made, if they get left in nature, if they get left in a spell or an environment, they need to be made out of something that isn't plastic. They need to be made out of something that isn't going to harm animals or birds or whatever it is when they eat it. So there's other considerations that we have to go into with that. But yeah. Would you walk the folks through how to do that tarot ritual, like your tarot spell?
Yeah. I mean, what spell?
The one that you use every day. The spell invitation.
What, the chant?
Yeah.
It's like inhaling.
Do what?
Hey, man. Oh, shit, ow.
Yeah, basically, like whenever I start my cards, you have your right hand, left hand. One is positive, one is negative. You put it in between cards. You just basically make a chant. Show me in the way that I should go. Show me the things that I should know that this is my will, so mote it be. You don't have to say so mote it be. You could say this is my will, may it be done. But just ask for guidance as you make that connection. Like I try to tell people, a lot of it is positive and the negative. It's the harmonic balance of who you are. You're ultimately asking these cards, which the energy around you will give you that answer through these cards. Like it's just the connection you've got to make hermetically, cosmetically. Like
it completes the loop.
Over time, as you take your cards, there's spreads out there that you can get to know your deck. You can go, and actually go in depth with the thought deck, and find out who you are alchemically and decode yourself. Like the whole year that we just spent, Brian watched me do. I mean, I went from nothing to decoding myself to finding out who I am alchemically and astrology and everything. Down to the last thing I did was my 23andMe test.
I think I shared in the community group a couple of spreads when we first started talking about it, like how to, like some shadow work type card spreads.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've used them in my shadow work. I've used them in my paranormal investigating. Like, I mean, I use tarot cards and the oracle cards are a very big part of my life. Like, I get guidance from them every day. If I have a problem, I go and do it, a 3-card pull, or, even some days I'll just sit here and like shuffle a deck and I'll cleanse it and I'll just pick a card, and it's like, oh, okay, the Chariot. I'm going places today, bam. Just, it's as simple as that, you know what I mean? And literally today I am going places. I got my setup for, the Cannabis Festival for Saturday, introducing me and Sprad. So, that right there is advertisement. My business cards came. So, like, I am going places. There's the Chariot. There's proof, people. Like, I'm not just bullshitting you. Proof is in the fucking pudding.
Right.
Simple as that.
Right. And having that and being able to rely on that as here's this thing that's going on. It's not something that is taken lightly nor undertaken without preparation. Right. And as folks watch this, or as folks are thinking about, okay, well, what is this that we're talking about? What is this thing that we're describing or demonstrating? It's this. To be able to do the thing, pull the goddamn Chariot card, and he's going to a major event tomorrow where he's going to literally be the Chariot of Sprad in that event. Right? That's a literal expression.
No. Yes.
ATL Transparency News was talking about golems, and it's like, okay, well, so let's take this one step further, right? Now we have identified the thing that Mike is doing. He's going to an event as the Chariot, right? what would be the created egregore that he's going to need? What is going to be the created talismata and the spirit that dwells within? See, egregores are created. Talismans are animated. They exist in a different class of magic than something that's a created being because it speaks of its own volition. These names echo, the words echo. It's like someone speaking behind you to you while you can't look directly at it. It's weird as shit, folks. But making a body of a thing that would allow the open roads to occur. So think of those like in like the Disney show where I think it was like Sleeping Beauty with all the like the little trumpeters as the little king is going, like the Red Queen has all those little cards going before them, and rolling out the red carpet as they walk along, right? Well, those little cards could be golems. You could have a whole like pack of cards in your pocket and they'll connect to the vibrations and the energy of your local environment, the behaviors of those people, so that those people who are keen to magic but might not know it might be a little more receptive if you have a magic totem in your pocket that is made of your divining cards, because you understand that it's a lens to other people. So you can keep them with you as a sort of magnet that draws magic folks to you. I'll find magic folks. Like I was at the West County Chamber of Commerce, right? Down here in Missouri. It's Missouri, folks. It's a red. Sure as shit. I was talking to this one lady. She's like, I'm not gonna deny it. I'm gonna tell you I love it. I put the oil on the stone, I put the stone in my bra, and it works. And I get clients. That was just as a business lunch for business owners. Like, there's nothing to do with like paganism or what have you. But she was telling the story of how it works for her, right? And she's in a setting where it might not be acceptable to talk about it, but it still drew her to me. It's the energy is still there where it's like, okay, well, there's magic, right? Well, the people that are interested in that come forward. And so to be able to embody what Mike's going to do as the anchor for Sprad, as a living anchor of the brand of Sprad, right? What he does for the paranormal community as that force. If he keeps his tarot cards in his pocket with him, it's a magnet that draws the spirits to him so that they can communicate with the things that he's already set up in place. So his tarot cards become a golem, a living entity of energy that was created by Mike, because that's the pack of cards he's using, right? In the same way that the Codex or the Grimoire of Hearts becomes at the same time its own entity, because it exists and it finds its way to the people that want it. But the more you use it, the more you associate your own version of it, the more it becomes your own Grimoire aspect into magic. The more it becomes your own road into magic. Well, it'll start throwing spells at you when it wants you to do things, or it thinks like, oh, great, magic. What am I going to do with it today? Oh, hey, here's a feather. Oh, hey, there's that conjuration of the familiar entity. It's starting to buzz. I feel the energy. I'm going to use a thing.
That was definitely a wonderful experience.
Yeah, like that's so much fun. What's up, Harold? How you doing, buddy? Thanks for watching, man.
Glad you stopped in, man. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming by. These are the guys. This is what we do. This is what we spend hours every week doing. So that way the magic improves, the individual improves, the path, the journey, the thing one does grows. And it doesn't matter where at in life they are. It doesn't matter which clipothic sphere they walk on. It doesn't matter which darkness they go into. Out comes something new.
Uh-oh. You lost.
Raven?
Where'd you go?
And this is how we make dark sorcery a little more accessible, so the people that are in darkness and need sorcery can find it to go other places.
Right.
It's like there's the dark sorcery that's just dark and evil and bleh, that's boring. But this kind of sorcery, transmutation of the darkness, taking it out of where is it that is bad for you and into what is good for you, what is good for your community, what is good for the people around you, what is good for the services that you provide that you can render better because you're in a better state to focus on the thing, and you have a higher motivation that's pushing your precision and your presentation to that next level of things so it's better than what it was. Right? And that's a path of growth. Even if the topic starts as darkness. Even if you're having a shitty day. Even if you're not happy with the way things are going or with something that happened and your spoons are taken. You know, like all your spoons are just gone for the day. Like, and you still have to fuck with it anyway. Right? And getting your spoons back, earning back that connection to power, connecting to the flow state where you're in that, ready for that. That's what makes this shit so much fun. But anyway, do you have specific questions that we want to get into? Like, where would you like to go with the concept of the application of the tarot spells? Do you guys want to do something? You got a tarot deck you want to pull out?
I actually have to get ready, so I will review this if I can later.
Okay. We can
we'll get ready for that job interview.
Yeah, man. You go get to it. We'll call it for the day. Thanks, everybody, for watching.
I got to take the cup out quick.
Cool. Stay safe, everybody.